Yo, Jason here, Diomedes Industries. Well, I think we're basically done here. After the last video, I dried the sheath in the sun and was able to get everything glued up and stitch it together last night. So I put the final finish on it last night, did the edges, and let that dry overnight. So what you're seeing here is pretty much the finished product. So if you'll remember, we started with a pretty simple drawing. Just putting a clip on the back side of this, and then showing you basically how I was going to do the inlay. This just basically gave me the outline. And so I lay that out. I split a piece of leather in half. So I ended up with a split, a back piece and a front piece, right? Then I traced the exterior of this with a set of wing dividers, a little bit over a ½ inch, glue in the plug, stitch it down, all that sort of stuff. We talked about that in video 2. So let me show you what we've got here for the final sheath. I'm really happy with the cane break. The leather really, that back stripe is what really does it, right? It pulls out the russet in the leather and does some amazing stuff. I put the 51 Bravo logo on it, and not mine, because it's his sheath and his project, and we do that sort of stuff for each other. And there are the edges. What's interesting about the edges, if you look at them, is the multiple layers. So there's 2 layers on the top, 2 layers on the bottom, and I use a double layer welt there too to add some strength. 90% of the strength in leather is in the top, like 10%. If you look at this, you've got epidermis, up here, and then underneath it is dermis, collagen fibers. And these collagen fibers are very loosely packed in comparison. When you look at the grain versus the flesh, you can see how much tighter this is than this. And in cow leather, it gets really thick, and towards the belly, those collagen fibers get really loose. Up on the back, where I used this leather from, is really tightly packed. But when you glue grain to grain, grain to grain, like I've got 8 layers of grain in here, this sheath is bomb-proof. So you can hear how it turns into something relatively rigid. So that's one of the things I've been doing this morning, is using my bone folder here to stretch this out to make sure that when 51 Bravo gets it, when Sean gets it, he can stick a knife in there and not ram it through the side of it. So I put a little bit of finish on it last night. I just went for a real mild finish on this. It can still be oiled and things like that. That's something that Chris can do down the road. I'm going to include a little bit of knife protectant. I'll probably include a little bit of my leather sealant on that as well. And he can add that if he chooses. So I don't have the knife. If you remember, I made this out of a piece of plywood here. And I can't put that in because the blade is a ½ inch thick, and that's not how thick blades are. This one will probably end up being a little bit around 1/8. This is not the blade. This is not even a 51 Bravo knife, but it's about the same length handle. So we can imagine what that's going to look like a little bit when we put that in. And I'm going to guess it's going to look a lot like that, although the Sparrowhawk handle is a little wider. So it's interesting. I was using one of my pieces of antler to stretch this out, and I put this piece in, and this is probably a little bit more realistic to what it's going to look like. So there you go. Now, the cool thing about that is, if you look at the Sparrowhawk design, right, of course it carries, right-handed or left-handed. And I believe Chris is a righty, but it really doesn't matter with this design, because if we imagine this is the knife, right? This is the knife. You can always just flip it around and put it back in and get the same result. So this is what I call a 1.5 finger reveal. It gives you about a 1.5 finger of grab on this to get it. And if we look at where this is going to rest, we have about 2 fingers there on that, which I'm happy with as well. There's no real chance of that coming out. I've got to break it in just to get the bone folder in there, right? Which is much thinner than the handle. So there's going to be some break-in, as there is with all leather. But that's normal, right? So there you go. There is the final result. You know, you just hope the client likes it. You never know. You never know. You do your best. But if you want to follow along with the knife build, I will link below 51 Bravo's build along series, or at least his YouTube. You can listen to Chris Stapleton anywhere. And he will be at the Van Andel Arena in June of 2025. So if you want to go see him there, see him there. But there you go. A little bit of cane brake set in some 8-ounce Wicket and Craig double shoulder. Thank you for coming along on the ride for this one. And checking out the whole 3-part series if you made it to the very end. And I will give you some more glamour shots as we go here. You can check out my website, diamedesindustries.com. You can check me out on Instagram and on Facebook. So check it out. I will see you all later. Peace.